And we're live, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Monday, 2 p.m. New Zealand time. We're coming to you live from Wellington, New Zealand. Welcome to the chat, everyone. Now, we have just had a time change here in New Zealand, going on a daylight savings time, so please do keep that in mind. I know for a lot of you guys on the East Coast in the USA, for example, it's gone from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m., so there has been a slight time change, but super excited to have all of you guys here for the live stream today. We're going to be doing a Q&A session, so looking forward to some really exciting questions being asked over here in the chat. So really excited to get into that. And of course, you do have to keep in mind, we got so many great things to get through, and I'd really like to see super interesting questions. So if you're just going to ask questions like when moon for random cryptocurrency, that may not get high priority, but definitely looking for some interesting questions here from you guys. Now, before we jump into the questions and we start getting some questions rolling in the chat here, there is one thing I wanted to bring up, and this is a story that has been getting a bit of play recently, and that is the story that Huobi is colluding for the EOS block producers. Now, this is an interesting thing as an accusation. Now, look, Huobi has since come out denying those accusations. And look, I would not be surprised if Huobi was indeed doing this. It could easily be a bit of FUD, some kind of manufactured lie that has been put out. That would not surprise me either, to be honest. But this was an inevitability for EOS that there would be collusion, that cartels would form. This is one of my big concerns about EOS. And when I did my EOS review, a lot of people who are really big EOS fans, and I don't dislike EOS. I just like to put that out there. But this rise of cartels in such a closed system is a near inevitability. And it's quite difficult for that to be stopped, because once those players get enough power, they start voting for each other, it becomes very problematic. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is what is actually happening. But currently Huobi is denying that. I have seen a few people asking about Electroneum. Now look, Electroneum is something I haven't looked at, honestly, since I reviewed it a long time ago, but it's getting a lot of attention this week because it is mooning currently, or it was mooning recently. I haven't actually looked at the charts on that. But Electroneum, I'm still not impressed with it even after all this time. And look, I haven't been keeping super up to date, but remember that they are not doing actual mobile mining. It is mobile mining simulation and all these different things. So I'm still not impressed with Electroneum, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you guys can fill me in on why Electroneum is super awesome. I know there are a lot of people out there who are holding Electroneum bags, and I hope that you guys can get out with a bit of profit. That's, of course, a lot that you can hope for most of these cryptocurrencies. Lark, what is your take on BitSpace partnering with Nexus? Interesting. Nexus has made some really cool partnerships recently. Obviously, they're trying to really fulfill that vision of having all of these cube satellites in space so that you can have this network that I guess really can't be taken down unless the government starts shooting the cube satellites out of space. That would be problematic, I guess. But overall, I think that Nexus has made some really cool partnerships when it comes down to that, and BitSpace, and I think, was it Space Chain? I think that was another one that they're partnered up with. And obviously, calling Cantrell's dad being in charge of Vector is, of course, very interesting as well, because his dad runs a rocket company. It's going to be a lot easier for him to put cube satellites into space when your dad actually owns the company that puts the rockets up there. So that is certainly pretty cool, without a doubt. I'm still holding my Nexus bags. I don't plan on getting rid of those Nexus bags. I'm either going to ride them to the top or ride them to the bottom, I suppose. But I like Nexus. I think it's one of those really underrated projects that doesn't get talked about enough. When you have stuff like, Electroneum, as an example, being shilled and put forward and all this stuff, and you look at it like, well, it's just a really basic code fork, and it's not really that impressive technologically in the marketing. I thought this was supposed to be the big thing for Electronium. It was supposed to be, they're so good at marketing, these guys. It was a marketing company. They're going to make it really, really awesome. Well, they haven't really done super well on that either. Whereas Nexus is out there actually developing awesome technology. And so that is a long-term play. Seb Fox, is Nexus going to the moon or just geosynchronous orbit? I'll take either. Lark, what's your opinion about the Dragonchain project? Do you think it can come back to its all-time highs? Now, that is an interesting question, actually. And when it comes to Dragonchain, when I first covered it, I mean, it was nearing all-time high back in January, and I was very bullish on it back then, and obviously markets have turned around and all these different things, but there's some things that have happened in the background that have made it much more difficult for Dragonchain to be successful. And that is something that hasn't been talked about enough, but the SEC is causing a lot of problems for companies like Dragonchain. Because what was Dragonchain's big proposition? That they were going to be bringing this platform in for people to be able to launch ICOs that are compliant with US laws, for US investors to be able to get in, etc. And then the SEC has been giving them a hard time. We've seen projects move away from Dragonchain because it just hasn't been really, you know, working out the way that they wanted it to. So there you go. Caesar2001, what do you think about the rumor of people in the US not being able to access Binance? Is it FUD? I have no idea what you're talking about, Caesar, but more likely than not, yes, this is FUD. I mean, if there was some official thing going on, somebody would have announced something. You might be looking at really issues with different service providers, for example, and who the heck knows what goes on in the background in the USA, so... Thanks, Lark. I totally agree with it being underrated with projects like ETN in the top 40s. Yeah, there you go. Chris, every YouTuber that criticizes ETN is beginning harassed like crazy for telling the truth. Well, yeah, my Electronium video didn't do super well back in the day. I got a lot of harsh comments on it, but sometimes you have to tell it like you see it, guys. Artyom Gordon says, I can access Binance and I'm from New York. Well, if you can access Binance in New York, and New York is like the toughest jurisdiction, then you're good to go, I think. Lark, check out something called Zelcore Wallet. First time I've ever heard of it. They're implementing Zel nodes. Great. It's supposed to scale once implemented. Well, supposed to scale versus actually being able to scale, that's a very different question. So let's see what happens, eh? Aeon, is it still a good project? I think Aeon's still a great project. And again, the bear market is one of those situations where we see a lot of projects getting a really hard time, and you get partnerships, you get mainnets, you get all this stuff happening, and it doesn't matter because the general market sentiment is turned against crypto projects. So Dogecoin is the next Bitcoin. Surprising that Dogecoin is like number 20 on CoinMarketCap. I think that says a lot about the cryptocurrency industry overall. But Dogecoin, you know, tech's there. And when you look at a lot of these projects, yeah. Anyway, what are you going to do with some of these teams? Conscious Vegan asks, do you think we might possibly break through the threshold of 21 million Bitcoin? No, I mean, obviously there would have to be some kind of a fork situation to increase the total number of Bitcoin. And I think that if that kind of a fork was to happen, and if that fork was to get mainstream adoption, that would really kill Bitcoin, in my opinion. One of the things that makes it valuable, and there's a lot of people who fall on either side of the economic conversation here in terms of continual inflation over time, like EOS. EOS has continual inflation over time. Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin has a set amount. I think this is one of the things that makes Bitcoin powerful. So, Alan Christian asks, dude, what's that Illuminati picture in the background about? Aren't those the people we fight? Alan, if you're from the U.S., I don't know if you are from the U.S. or not, but I would encourage you to look in your pocket. You probably have one of these symbols there right now. Look, it's just it's an art piece, guys. It's an art piece on the wall. So don't read too much into it. I'm actually with the Illuminati, guys. It's all been a ruse. It's all been a ruse. I'm actually an Illuminati agent here spreading misinformation on the internet. Corey, giving a quick reminder here as well that all of our broadcasts can be found on Crypto Waves. It is the name of my podcast. It's available on iTunes, guys. So if you want to check out any of what I do as a podcast, you can listen to it on your way to work or whatever else you want to do, you can find it over there. Lark is a Freemason and exposed. What's the piece on the left? This guy. That's it's by a New Zealand artist actually, but it's a family piece of art. Been in the family for a while, but it's pretty cool. It's called God Golfing. You know, God out knocking Earth like a little golf ball. So Jeff asks, Lark, you have mentioned Pip X before. What are your thoughts as of late? I still like Pip X. The fundamentals of Pip X have not really changed to me. And yeah, there were some dramas in the conversion from, you know, regular Pip X to the upgrade to the ZPIV and stuff like that. Yeah, so, I mean, there's a bit of that. But, I mean, recently, Pip X has just been chilling. They've been developing. They've been doing good things. And it's only the market that's put them down so much, to be honest. And look, there's a whole separate conversation to be had about how many cryptocurrencies can we have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I can tell you one thing. Pip X masternodes have not been this cheap in a damn long time. In fact, a lot of masternodes right now are looking like some tasty little buys in the market. So if you're out there looking for passive income opportunities and you actually believe in these projects, like I've got total faith that Pip X is going to be around for a while. So this is something to keep in mind. Getting yourself like a Pip X masternode, if of course you can afford it at this point, is definitely interesting. Or if you look at some of the other ones, you can get like a smart cash masternode for way, way cheaper, for example. And on down the line, if you go down to some of those low cap coins, the ones that are around like $10 or $20 million market caps, you can actually get some really cheap masternodes at this point if you think that those will pay off for you in the long run, if you think that those projects actually have some strong value. Michael, thank you very much for the contribution. What are your thoughts on Veritasium? Unfortunately, I have no thoughts on Veritasium for you. Project I've never really looked into, to be honest. Chris Otis, do you think that people are losing faith in NEO? I think there has been a lot of drama around NEO recently. But then I look at so many projects, and there's been so much drama in the bear market as investors are freaking out, as people are panicking and spreading fear. So you're getting a lot of that. But overall, the NEO ecosystem is only continuing to grow all the time. Look at the Nexus exchange coming. That's going to be big. We have the NEO operating system and all these different things. So, like, seriously, guys, this is definitely... I wouldn't lose faith in NEO. And some people are saying, yeah, but now that we have ontology, you know, it's going to go over and we're going to see people, you know, taking over from ontology and NEO is going to be left behind. And I don't think so, because if you look at actually what it comes down to is these have been developed by a company that's been developing many different things. So I don't think it's a problem at all. What is your opinion about BloomDX? We're getting a lot of specific comment questions here. I got to go in back here. I think it was, where was this? Private coins or not private coins? I think privacy coins are going to be a powerful thing, but privacy coins in the future may very well need decentralized exchanges to be able to operate. Now, I'm actually surprised that, for example, Gemini listed Zcash, because I swear, if anything's going to be used for money laundering in cryptocurrencies, it's going to be the privacy coins, guys, because that technology is powerful. Really, you can just make money disappear. It's like a magic trick. It's like a magic trick, guys. So when you think of it that way, there is a danger that regulation could move against privacy coins, but we are seeing decentralized exchanges becoming only more and more popular. The Binance decentralized exchange could be really, really big, for example, or the decentralized exchange from Stellar. It's only getting more popular, decentralized exchanges. So I think privacy coins are fantastic. And I don't own enough of them. I've always been thinking, I don't know, I don't want to get some more Monero or I don't want to get some Zcash. I don't actually own any of those at the moment. I only have a Pip X as a privacy coin. I did sell my Nav coin a little while ago. Bill wanted me to talk a bit about centralization versus decentralization. Now, I actually made a video on this a little while ago for you guys, and the idea here is that we often think of centralization and decentralization as an all or nothing kind of scenario. You're either centralized or you're decentralized. And it's not actually like that. Because what you see is there's all these shades of centralization and decentralization. And it really, when it comes down to it, we have just different levels. We might look at Facebook as being something that is highly centralized, right? Whereas everybody might say, well, Bitcoin is super decentralized. Well, yeah, Bitcoin is quite decentralized, but at the same time though, Bitcoin is fairly decentralized. Anybody can plug a miner in. Now, that may not be very useful unless you have free electricity, but you can still do it. But at the same time, we have seen a centralization of, for example, the mining pools, and mining pools are, becoming centralized because they want to be more competitive and get more blocks, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of movement between the two. So Anthony asks, why is Lightning taking so long? Because if they screw up Lightning, it's a big screw up. So Anthony, unless they get Lightning right, it's going to be very, very detrimental. Good tech takes time. It really, really does. And you can't rush it, because when you rush things, you screw up big time. And they have to make sure that the technology is robust, that it's working properly. Otherwise, they're going to bring it out and they're going to prove all those people who have been out there criticizing the Lightning Network right. And that's not what you want, because you only really get one chance at this. Because once the crowd turns away from you, it's highly problematic. Corey says the internet still isn't done. Yeah, I agree. The internet is not done yet. And actually, what I was reading about Tim Berners-Lee and his new project, that is very, very exciting. The internet had so much promise at the start, and it's been building over time, and there was a certain need for these centralized services, etc. But over time, we've seen it become a burden for the internet. We need more decentralized services, actually. Mr. Simon asks, what are your thoughts on Mainframe and VChain? I'll comment on both those. Mainframe is something that I'm very excited about as a long-term thing. I think Mainframe is going to be delivering awesome value for the decentralization of the internet, for the censorship resistance of information. And it's so cheap right now. The Mainframe is definitely a very, very interesting one. And VChain's a monster. I mean, I don't know how anybody cannot be excited about VChain. When you look at the partnerships and everything else that VChain is doing, it's absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. Okay, where are we up to here? Lark, what are your thoughts on stablecoins, the types, and their value propositions in the space? Asked BitNative. That is a great question, actually. Stablecoins are such a hot topic at the moment. And it's interesting to see the explosion. I feel like we're in this evolutionary phase, and it's like, the Cambrian era, and just everything's exploding, and all this life's coming into the crypto space. All of these stablecoins, I mean, look, I'm kind of on the fence about the whole stablecoin idea anyway, because really, what are you doing? You're tethering to dying fiat currencies, right? You can feel free to disagree with me on the future of fiat, but it's useful for trading, right? Because the reality is right now you have a dollar value attached to Bitcoin, right? And that goes up and down. But when you start to think in, Mark Moores asks, do you have a financial interest in VChain? Mark, I literally have 0 VChain. I actually have most of these projects I talk about, most of the stuff you guys ask me about, I'm familiar with it because I live and breathe crypto every single day. This is my passion. It's what I do for my living, and it's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I'm very aware of VChain, and I'm very aware of what VChain does. The most I've ever held VChain is for like an hour on a short-term trade or a couple hours on a short-term trade. I don't own any VChain currently. I don't own a lot of the cryptocurrencies that I talk about. I just give my opinions on them as I see it, guys, shooting from the hip here. So keeping that in mind. Now, to continue on the stablecoin conversation, actually being able to transfer that value is really interesting, because if you can send somebody $1, well, that's pretty applicable in most places, because not everywhere it's easy to change Bitcoin at the moment. And as we see more and more stable coins rise up, well, these are going to have value. Imagine the threat to Western Union. Just think about like the Gemini dollar, for example. Well, now you can just go and buy these dollars, transfer them across the Ethereum blockchain, and bada bing, bada boom. Look at that. All of a sudden, you've just sent this money for a fractional fee. Now, of course, you do have to be able to exchange it on the other side. But when it comes down to the utility of stablecoins, they're massively utilitarian. And we actually see as well a situation with stablecoins where we're getting some really, really high quality ones coming out. And I find that encouraging for the professionalization of the cryptocurrency industry, because what was our option before? Tether. And whether or not Tether was a messed up pile of junk or not, who the heck knows? Only Tether really knows. They kept giving us information that was always some kind of half information. But now we have all these options. Now we have True USD. Now we have the Gemini dollar. Now we have the Circle dollar over on Poloniex, and we have Paxos, and we have a British pound stablecoin that's just been launched, and we have somebody launching a Japanese yen stablecoin, and on and on and on and on it goes. And all of these are like regulatorily compliant. And like the Gemini dollar, for example, what a great example. They went full compliance, full regulation. You can trust in that, I guess, to the extent that you can trust government and regulation and all this BS, which is so-so, I suppose, overall. But nevertheless, it's a heck of a lot more trustworthy than Tether. And in terms of the future of Tether, well, that, I suppose, at the moment is an interesting situation, because I'm not sure that Tether is going to fare well with so many really super serious competitors coming into the space. I don't think it bodes well for Tether, and I'm actually happy to see more professional competition, because as people start to use True USD and the Gemini dollar and all these different things more, that is massive, because if Tether was fraudulent, it's a massive risk to the crypto industry. But if Tether's like the 10th most used stablecoin, and it does turn out to be fraudulent, no worries. It's not going to be this massive market event. But currently, Tether is still king, so we have to actually see these competitors taking off a bit more. Okay. Christian D, why don't you respond to emails? Well, that's an interesting question, Christian. So, look, I try to respond to as many emails as I can. The reality is that across all my social media, I get a mind-boggling amount of messages every day. I got Telegram, I got LinkedIn, I got Twitter, etc., etc., etc. So I try to respond. I especially try to respond to emails from, the regular crowd. So if you actually have a question about something about cryptocurrencies, I try to respond to those ones more. Again, I can't always guarantee that I do get around to responding to all these emails, but if you've been emailing me trying to get me to cover your random coin or your random cryptocurrency project or whatever, if I haven't got back to you, it means I probably wasn't interested. So don't take it as an offensive thing, but I try to answer as many as I can, guys. Martin Dillon asks, have you looked into the key? The key. I have not actually looked into the key very much. I remember there was a lot of excitement about it when it did come out, but I have never actually, really dug into it and read the white paper and all that stuff. So Dr. Ed asks, what are your thoughts on Block 1 and the SEC? Oh, that's interesting. Block 1 and the SEC, huh? Yeah. Well, the SEC, I feel like, is getting in the way of crypto innovation, to be honest. And I don't think it's a good thing. And I know they're trying to protect unsophisticated investors. Well, that's you and me, guys. We're the unsophisticated investors that they are trying to protect from getting rich, right? Again, if you want to go down to the casino and spend all your money, the SEC's not standing at the door going, whoa, son, are you a sophisticated gambler? No, you can go in and spend all your money just like that. But in terms of investing in real products, well, that's problematic. Now, look, Block 1 and their ICO, they did exclude U.S. citizens from that, but I think there's a real, zone here where you did see those tokens being immediately unlocked. And Block 1 is outside of the SEC's jurisdiction, but you can't deny the fact that U.S. investors were able to get out and buy EOS tokens very easily on the open market. And so if the SEC decides to make some kind of moves against Block 1, they don't have jurisdiction over them, even though the United States generally claims jurisdiction over everything. So, who the heck knows? Psychotic Bear asks, did you make a fortune off of cryptocurrency? Well, I've certainly done okay off of cryptocurrencies, but I think there's a misconception that all crypto YouTubers are like multi-millionaires who are out here just shilling our bags, trying to make more millions. And I'm largely just a dude who talks about cryptocurrencies and enjoys coming out, making videos every day. And I'm having more and more fun making videos every day as I'm, taking more of a comedic slant on things and trying to move towards making even more fun, even more educational, even more entertaining videos for you guys. So that's definitely part of it. Yes, I do profit from trades, and I do the occasional sponsored video and all these things, but it's far less than you guys would probably imagine overall. Okay, Crypto Disc Golf. What are your top 3 holdings? Hold on a second. Well, Bitcoin is obviously number 1. Ethereum is usually number 2, but it depends on whether I've been investing in an ICO recently or something like that. So there's that. But let's have a look here. I'll give you my top holdings. So my top holdings at the moment, obviously Bitcoin is on top with the biggest percentage currently. Cardano is my second biggest holding. After that, we've got Neo, Lastos, Zilliqa, Icon, on down the list. But really, the biggest holdings at the moment are Bitcoin, Cardano, and usually Ethereum. But Neo's also got a very big spot in that currently. Crypto Time Traveler. What are your top 3 projects? Well, that's an interesting one. I suppose it's kind of similar, I suppose, to what I was just answering. But look, some of the projects that have really been interesting me, I suppose, a lot. One of them has to be Elastos. Elastos is such an interesting project, and to see it actually have been savaged by the markets recently, looks like a good buying opportunity to me personally. Outside of that, there's a lot of really, really amazing stuff, and I could sit here and just top 3, I could just go for ages, right? Cardano is going to be massive when they deliver, and everyone gets really, if you don't deliver it today, it's not going to be great. And that's not how technology works, guys. It really, really isn't. It's a process. It's, testing the code and working through the code and making it better. And for people to come out and say, well, Cardano hasn't delivered all my fantasies and made me $1 billion today, well, it doesn't mean it's not going to in the future. So Seb asks, Lark, did you take regular profits but still lose a fortune in cryptocurrency gains like me? Yes, Seb. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I did take profits at the when things were going up, right? But you know, I am still holding a lot of crypto assets that have lost a lot of value, like everyone else out there. You know, I'm not a wizard who can always outplay the market. But nevertheless, I do try to, you know, take profits when I can. So Chris asking, actually a couple people asking about Nebulous. And Akshay saying, why isn't anyone talking about NOS? I don't know why more people don't talk about NOS. But I'm a massive Nebulous fan now. Like, I do hold some Nebulous, but like not like... It's, I don't know, like 1% of my holdings or something like that as like I guess a moonshot sort of thing. But Nebulous is really cool, actually. They've been developing a great ecosystem overall. So Emma asks, are you a New Zealander and why are you there? I'm a citizen of the world. Can we say that? I live in New Zealand. You can probably tell by the accent. I grew up in the USA, but that was a very, very long time ago. And when I say I'm a citizen of the world, I really mean that. I don't feel beholden to a country or owned by a country. And I don't think that, you know, looking through that lens of like, well, I'm from this country, so therefore I have some kind of value system, doesn't really make any sense to me. And it's not something that I base my life on, to be honest. But I love New Zealand. New Zealand's a freaking amazing place to live. I live in Wellington, New Zealand. I lived quite a long time on a little island called Waiheke Island up in the northern part of New Zealand. I might move back to the north at some point in the future. But overall, New Zealand is really, really cool, and it's a great little place to live. I don't actually see myself, you know, taking that move back to the USA at any point in the future. If I were to go and live anywhere else, it would probably be in, you know, I don't know, Bali or Thailand or back to Russia or Italy or something like that. But I'm pretty happy in New Zealand at the moment anyway. But again, time to move around the world. It's a million and one things you can do with your life and a million and one places to live. Don't get boxed in by the nationality discussion. John Constantine asks, is net neutrality just a step to the government censoring the internet? Well, yes. Well, what we've seen is the repeal of net neutrality laws, John, and what was the immediate result of the repeal of those net neutrality laws? We've seen that, as predicted, the internet service providers are attacking major services. YouTube, for example. They are being throttled by the internet service providers because it's a broken system. We need an internet that doesn't need to be protected by net neutrality laws. The fact that we have to go to Washington, for example, and, you know, beg, oh, please, please, politicians, protect our internet. That in of itself is wrong. And that's why, you know, when I heard about Tim Berners-Lee and he's literally trying to think about how can we restructure the World Wide Web and actually make things different. Well, that is really, really important, guys, because if you have a decentralized internet, then no one can shut it down. It doesn't need to be regulated by corrupt politicians. So there's a lot of projects working on the new internet. Who's going to be successful, or will it be a variety of them that is successful? Time will tell, I suppose. What coins do you think are actually closest to achieving mass adoption in the short term? Well, that's an interesting question, actually. Bitcoin, if it gets the Lightning Network up and running, obviously Bitcoin's probably does a massive amount of transactions currently. As much as people dislike XRP, if XRP actually gets used by banks for those international transactions like they would like to be, if XRapid actually starts getting used on a real basis, that would be interesting. That would be some pretty big adoption, without a doubt. But there's a lot of projects aiming towards that. I feel like Pundi X is one of those projects that it gets talked about enough, I suppose, but without a doubt could be talked about a lot more because they're literally putting 700,000 point of sale terminals in front of people all over the world, giving people all over the world access to these different cryptocurrencies. And that is very, very exciting. That gets it in front of people. That makes it real for people. NeoNerd says Bakkt should be a catalyst for crypto going forward. Yes, it should be. Yes, it should be. I suppose we will see how big of a catalyst it actually is going to be. But it is definitely moving in that direction of being a major catalyst for this. To see that they're offering, for example, deliverable Bitcoin futures is very interesting. But again, you have to remember, as excited as people are about Bakkt, Bakkt is not for you and me. It's not. It is for big money. Those deliverable Bitcoin futures, 25 Bitcoin a piece. So this is the thing, guys, is that this is a situation where it's not for regular humans. It's not for people to come out and, you know, get grandma involved in cryptocurrencies. Get one of these, 25 Bitcoin cryptocurrency futures. No, it's for Wall Street. It is for the big guys to do. Sempre Music Adon asks, do you know Kim.com and do you live close to him? That's a great question. I don't know Kim.com, although he does follow me on Twitter, so I feel pretty honored about that. He lives in Queenstown, actually, so it's about an hour flight from where I am at. I keep trying to get him nailed down for an interview, but he's a busy man. Maybe one of these days. I keep hoping to get Kim.com on the channel for an interview because he is a massive crypto advocate. And some of the things he's developing are super, super interesting. He is developing projects that want to, decentralize content distribution, for example. He's got this project he's working on, K.im. So that will be really cool. And he's constantly out there on Twitter saying, hey, guys, make sure you get Bitcoin. Make sure you get gold. So that's pretty cool, to be honest. Atomic Sparks. Did you notice Ripple took second place last night and might drop again and dropped again today? Atomic Sparks, this has been ongoing for the past couple of days, to be honest, with Ripple spiking up and down. And man, there's been a lot of great trading opportunities on Ripple, guys, honestly. I hope some of you guys, who have that sort of time and understanding to get in there and look at that have been playing some of those trades, because there has definitely been a lot of money made on XRP over the last 10 days or so. Although I feel like now that we have reached this point of the swell conference is going to happen, I would watch for a pullback after the swell conference. Seb, that's a great question. Speaking of Kim.com, why does he not reply to every cold approach email that I send him? I don't know. He's a wily one, that Kim.com. Oh, great question. What are your thoughts on the EOS Pixel Master game? This is honestly the first time that I'm hearing of. Thank you for the contribution, by the way, but I have no idea. Honestly, there's so many exciting things going on out there. And EOS has been developing a lot of great stuff. And in spite of the cartel accusations that we mentioned at the start of the thing, a lot of people aren't going to care about that. And it's a really niche thing that makes people upset and gives people a reason to criticize EOS. But whether there's cartels or not voting for each other, the reality is you have 21 block producers that you can rely on to produce those blocks. And so I don't know anything about EOS Pixel Master. I hope it's a cool project, but there you go. Unfortunately, so many things happening every day. I'm just blown away by the fire hose of information I am confronted with on a daily basis of new things coming in, new things happening, all these different things. What's up, Spencer? Welcome to the chat, man. As mentioned, the time has changed for all you guys on the East Coast. It's now at 9 p.m. But keep keep frosty for the next time change. I think there's going to be another one coming up here soon when you guys change time, potentially. So keep an eye out for that. You guys think what Charlie Lee said about owning one Bitcoin before any other coin because Bitcoin will be like $1 million or something in 2024? Jebs Gaming. I get what you're saying, Jebs. And look, Charlie's kind of right. And it's funny. And look, hey, a lot of people give Charlie Lee a really, really hard time. But you have to look and keep it real. What's Charlie Lee been doing all this time? He's been out there advocating for the adoption of cryptocurrencies. He made Litecoin. And people say, yeah, but he sold his Litecoin, and I dislike him because of that, because he sold it when it was worth a lot. And I've always thought with that argument, like, are you kidding me? What, would you have preferred Charlie Lee to sell his Litecoin when it was worth nothing? Pay attention to those movements, because some of these guys have been in the space for a while. Charlie Lee selling his Litecoin might be not a bad time to sell your own Litecoin. But he is right about the Bitcoin thing. If you can have one Bitcoin moving into the future, I think that's really massive, guys. Because just think about it. If Bitcoin gets to the point of global adoption, that's gonna be a monstrous, monstrous thing. Keeping in mind, up to 4 million Bitcoin have already been lost. Forever, potentially, assuming Satoshi Nakamoto's dead, or that part of, let's say Satoshi Nakamoto was a group and that one person for that multi-sig wallet is no longer able to sign because they died or whatever it might be. All that Bitcoin might be lost, not to mention the Bitcoin has just been thrown away in hard drives and all these different things. So that happened. The other 4 million Bitcoin that is still to be mined, approximately, of course, that's going to take like another 100 years. And so if you imagine having that one Bitcoin, and Bitcoin becomes a major form of international payments for merchants, and there's so many reasons for merchants to accept cryptocurrencies, and on it goes. So yeah, getting yourself at least one is the moon ticket, guys, without a doubt. Wheat Bix Gluten. Interesting. I like the name. Do you have any knowledge about Nebulous? Yeah, I mean, I've been looking into Nebulous. I did a review on it. If you guys want to go and watch the review on it. I've been trying to get hitters on the show for quite a while. I keep chasing him. I actually sent him another email the other day being like, hitters, let's get on the show. Davey's going to come on, and then it's pulled out at the last minute, but we're going to keep chasing that around. But I like what Nebulous is trying to do. I actually really liked it when Nebulous came out and said, hey, you know what? We are so bullish on our own project. We are going to delay the team tokens for 10 years. Think about the belief in your own project where you say, hey, you know what? We're not going to take our own tokens for 10 years because that's how confident we are that this is going to be a big project. That's pretty cool. David asks, are you still bullish on Hacken? I still think Hacken's a great project. And this is the interesting thing about so many companies and different cryptocurrencies right now in the ecosystem is that the fundamentals haven't changed, guys. Hacken's still delivering cool stuff. But the market has crushed a lot of these projects, and it doesn't mean that the developers have stopped. It doesn't mean that the business partnerships have stopped or any of that kind of stuff. It just means that realistically, the market has pushed these projects down. It's fascinating. There's so many of these crypto companies out there that literally have more money in their war chest than their tokens worth at the moment. And of course, that is a problem of trying to get these tokens to actually create value, of trying to get these ecosystems developed where they're actually creating value for their tokens. And that's a hard thing to do, without a doubt. Stefan, what is your opinion about the diminishing amount of full nodes within the Ethereum network? Well, it's interesting. I haven't been looking into that to be honest, but I also assume that that is exactly as you say it is, and that there are a diminishing amount of full nodes in the Ethereum network. Well, as Ethereum continues to grow, it's probably getting more difficult to run a full node in terms of actual data, but I think for a lot of people, running nodes, it's not worth a lot of people's time. And even though they want to participate in the network, people just aren't participating in the network. Or if they have been participating in the network, maybe they don't need to participate in the network anymore. And that's problematic. And I think once we actually see Ethereum switch over to a proof of stake network, that might actually bring more nodes back into play as they need to stake in order to get rewards. But time will tell, I suppose, how that comes. Psychotic Bear asks, when does mainstream acceptance of cryptos begin? When do businesses soften up and accept our millennials, the crypto generation? So your second part, yes, I would say that the current generation is going to be largely responsible for the adoption of cryptocurrencies. In terms of when is it going to go mainstream, it's going more and more mainstream every day. It's a slow boil, guys. It's not going to be just, we wake up tomorrow and go, oh, look, mainstream adoption happened, guys. It's mainstream adoption. Haha, overnight. It doesn't work like that. It's happening all the time. We're constantly moving in that direction. And when mainstream adoption has happened, you won't even realize it because it will have been happening all this time. We're literally working on this all the time, moving in that direction of massive adoption of cryptocurrencies. And it's all these different things. Merchants are accepting cryptocurrencies more and more. Things like Coinbase Commerce have made it easier to accept cryptocurrencies. Pip X making it easier. We have different cryptocurrencies that are out there in terms of making it easier to send payments. You know, you got like Dash Evolution and their idea behind trying to make it just send it to an email address or a name, and EOS is doing the same thing. And this is what's going to make it easy for people to use cryptocurrencies without having to go through that learning curve of using them. And so that's part of it. But I think the big thing with mainstream adoption is mainstream adoption will happen when basically many of the major websites, let's imagine the new Facebook, for example, when people are using cryptocurrencies and they don't even know they're using cryptocurrencies, much in the same way that people use, file sharing, they don't realize that they're using what the technology underneath that actually is. Right now, we're in the early stages. It's more like, we're past the command line part of cryptocurrencies, but we're not a lot past that because the cryptographic addresses and all this stuff, it is a barrier for mainstream adoption. But we're moving past that, and it's a good thing that we're moving past that. And there are companies that are working every single day to make this more user-friendly. We have services like, I think it was Arcana, they want to do basically custody for regular people. So, Kirk, what are your thoughts on Tron? Let me have a little bit of tea before we get into that. Tron. Well, look, Tron, interesting project, actually. And a lot of people like to trash on Tron because it's the popular thing to do. And hey, I like to make jokes once in a while too. But the reality is that Tron has actually been delivering. And even if you want to go back in history and say, well, but X, Y, and Z, when they started out, and it doesn't matter. Because Tron was able to generate enough excitement about their project that they were able to make stupid amounts of money and that they were able to buy anything they want. And there's real power in that. There's power with money, guys, surprisingly. And so Tron was able to go out and buy BitTorrent, for example. And when we see the Atlas implementation, bada bing, bada boom. I mean, Tron is going to be big, whether you like Tron or not. And I know that a lot of people dislike Tron because it's the trendy thing to do. But look at all these cryptocurrency projects out there that are completely incapable of marketing themselves. I don't care how damn good your technology is. If you can't translate your vision to people, your technology is borderline worthless, realistically. And the reality with Tron is that Tron has been able to translate their vision to people, have been able to get people excited about their project, have been able to build a massive community of highly enthusiastic people. And people are building on it. And it's going to be big. When they have that BitTorrent implementation, when you have all these different wallets using Tron, getting paid rewards for seeding content. I mean, come on, guys. One of the reasons I stopped seeding on torrents is because it was just taking up computer power and all this stuff. And I thought, well, I'm not really getting anything for this. I mean, okay, it's nice to contribute to the network and all that stuff, but it's also nice to get a little reward, isn't it? It's going to be big, guys. So if you're a Tron hater, I'd say go back and look at it and try and understand what they're actually doing. Ricky, what is the coolest New Zealand project? Well, that's an interesting question, actually. I would say Navcoin, to be honest. There's a few different New Zealand projects, and there's quite a few different ICOs being launched out here, and Nem has been hanging out here a lot recently, and that's cool to see, you know, what Nem has been doing here. But in terms of, you know, New Zealand homegrown projects, there's actually Centrality in Auckland. I haven't really looked into them, and I reached out to them and tried and say, hey guys, if you want to hang out. But realistically, it's Navcoin, guys. I think Navcoin is very, very strong technologically. I think Navcoin has really delivered in terms of being a good cryptocurrency, even though the markets have savaged Navcoin. It doesn't change the underlying technology of Navcoin, and it doesn't change, you know, their implementations. They have their community fund, for example, and all these different things that are coming through. That's all cool stuff. I like Navcoin. Big fan. I don't actually hold any anymore, but I still like Navcoin. What do you think about IOTA and WDAP coming in 2019 Q1? Will it push up the price? Probably. About IOTA, you know, I'm actually really I'm really happy I was able to sell my IOTA finally. It took me an incredibly long time to be able to move half of it. I lost half of it, just disappeared. I like Richard Hart's comments about IOTA. IOTA's like it's actually better to throw your money out the window. Some of it might blow back in. That's how I feel with IOTA. Fortunately, some of my IOTA did blow back in the window. I was able to sell it. But look, I think that with IOTA, it is definitely going to continue to have an exciting future. They have been doing a lot of really cool developments on it. We have like Cubic, for example. And as we start to see these different implementations coming to IOTA with the business partnerships that they have, IOTA's not going anywhere. Even though there are a lot of competitors, though. And those competitors may indeed be better. See, IOTA suffers from the first mover disadvantage, which we see going on with like Ethereum, for example. And look, IOTA's got a lot of money, so they can have a lot of money to make their thing better. But we have a lot of DAGs that are competing, a lot of DAGs that have better technological implementations, a lot of DAGs that are probably going to be more robust than IOTA and potentially more user-friendly. So the DAG area is getting really, really big. So Thomas, how much OTC BTC trading do you think there is? And is that why we're seeing a little bump and leveling out? Are the weak hands gone? Weak hands are always there. Weak hands come and go every day, to be honest. And in terms of weak hands overall, I mean, I feel bad for the people who, you know, have got in without really knowing what they were doing, because I think that's what it really, really comes down to, right? But in terms of how much OTC Bitcoin trading there is, it's not possible to get exact numbers because so much of it goes on in the background, but there's a heck of a lot. I mean, I haven't seen recently any estimates, but it's huge because the entire Chinese crypto scene right now is OTC. That's worth keeping in mind. And the OTC, even outside of China, is also massive. You have people in New York City who, you know, are buying 1,000 or 10,000 Bitcoin at a time. And you can't just go to an exchange and do a market buy and do that. It doesn't quite work like that. So there's a lot of it going on. It doesn't affect the price that you see on like CoinMarketCap. so much because that's all run off of APIs based on the exchanges and it doesn't register across there. Now, maybe some of those people go later and sell Bitcoin on those exchanges, but not as much. It's not affecting the price as much as you think it is because it's not registering on the market on a daily basis. Ryan, thank you for the contribution. Curious if you've ever looked into any science coins. They claim to help cure Alzheimer's, Parkinson's with protein folding. What? You know, I saw something like this the other day, and I think it was they were going to stop cardiovascular disease with the blockchain, I think was one that I saw the other day. And look, these guys want to cure Alzheimer's and Parkinson's with blockchain. Yeah, I really don't know about that, guys. Honestly. Look, okay, to give you a serious answer, there's a lot of these collaborative science ecosystems that are being built. We could look at, for example, SingularityNet. They wanted to make a collaborative marketplace for AI, right? And we have Cambria that wanted to make a collaborative marketplace for robotics. Both very interesting and interesting places to go and do that, but it's not blockchain in of itself that's going to solve these serious diseases. That's not what blockchain does, guys. But it may make for example, easier collaboration between scientists, easier to share data and to do peer reviews and all these different things. There is definitely space for efficiency increases, but it will not solve it in of itself, even though it sounds really, really cool. I mean, I looked into, I think it was a BlockMedX, and they wanted to solve the opioid crisis in the United States with blockchain. I was saying, well, that's fantastic. I would love for somebody to solve the opioid crisis because it's terrible that people are out there, you know, taking these drugs that are killing them. That's really sad. But I'm not sure that a blockchain application is going to do that because it requires so many organizations to come together that are massively outdated and all this fun stuff. You actually have to get the doctors to do this. Anyway, Casey Taylor asks, what pot stocks are you buying? I'm not actually buying any pot stocks, but they're certainly interesting. I think that there's a great potential for pot stocks, but definitely not for pot coins. I would like to make that abundantly clear because there is honestly no grand reason to have like marijuana coins, right? And pot stocks are great because, you know, when you buy a pot stock, you know what that gives you? Equity in the freaking company. I mean, you get a dividend and all that stuff back, right? Well, that's great. As we saw with like Paragon, though, what they do? They raised $70 million. I mean, oh man, I watched actually watched that video again the other day, their promotional video where Jesper Steeg's like, and blockchain. Okay, don't buy pot coins, guys, because the reality is that the marijuana companies, they want to come out of the dark. They don't want to be using pot coins, right? They might use something like metal, for example, because that's an FDIC insured account, for example. This makes it more professional, not less professional. I haven't seen any marijuana coin yet that has convinced me that it's a good idea. Now, maybe if we had a security as a pot coin, well, that could be interesting. Let's say I'm starting a giant marijuana company. I'm not starting it. Don't send the cops here. But let's say, as an example, I'm going to start, you know, a public offering for my company, and I'm going to use a ERC20 token to deliver dividends, for example. Well, that's interesting. That would be a cannabis coin that I would be interested in because you'd be getting actual dividend shares back from the companies versus just having a coin that gives you access to some ecosystem. I'm not convinced. Air Blues, what are your thoughts on MadeSafe? MadeSafe, highly ambitious project. Let's see what they can do. They've been taking a heck of a long time, but, you know, as I always say. You can't rush good tech, guys, but you may not be relevant by the time your tech gets out if it takes too long. It's the double-edged sword of it, I suppose. Adolfo Hipster, do a video update on your portfolio. I will do that one of these days, guys. I will do that one of these days. Maybe I'll do it in a future live stream. I think it's always fun to talk through the portfolio and why these different things are there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, guys, we're going to do the last question of the day. Is it a good idea to buy Bitcoin from an ATM machine? Great question. That's really interesting, actually. Now, it depends. I think it so much depends on where you are and if you have access to better options, to be honest. Because if you can buy Bitcoin from, let's say, Gemini Exchange, for example, well, great. You should do that because you're probably it's gonna be cheaper for you. Bitcoin ATMs, from what I've seen, charge too big of fees. And that's where they make their money. Obviously, they're running a service. They have a machine that people are going to come by and vandalize and needs to be serviced and all this different stuff. Money has to be taken out of it on a daily basis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, they have to have a profit margin on top of that. I would say buy it probably anywhere else except for from a Bitcoin ATM, but it's a nice gimmick, and it certainly, for the right places, gives you that ability to actually get some Bitcoin. And even if you are paying a 5% markup on it, for example, well, then that's cool. Sometimes that's good. If you bought Bitcoin last year at $2,000 and you paid a 5% markup on it, you did okay, to be honest. But nevertheless. Okay, all right, guys. One final question. That's on Elastos. I am very bullish on Elastos. I think Elastos is an absolutely fantastic project, and it's such a far-reaching monster of a project that it's actually, to look at it, you really have to try and understand. You're not looking at the tree; it's a forest kind of picture with Elastos. But they keep getting cool partnerships. They keep doing interesting things in terms of innovation. It's really, really cool. And I saw they partnered up with, what was the name? They got a new partnership the other day with yet another film company or a film implementation, and it's going to be really cool. It is going to be a big player, and honestly, I look at Elastos at the current prices, and I think, looking pretty tasty. Looking pretty tasty, guys, without a doubt. But, of course, those are just my 2 satoshis on all of those topics, guys. I want to thank everybody so much for coming out and asking really, really fun and exciting questions. Seriously, you guys are awesome. I'm humbled every time that I come on here and do a live stream and people come out here and ask really cool questions. Thanks, of course, to the moderators for helping keep the chat a safe and friendly place for everybody to come and talk and answer and ask questions to each other. And I know I don't get to all those questions, but I see you guys in the chat answering each other's questions. And that's super awesome because you guys are awesome. That is all from the Crypto Lark for today. Long live the blockchain. And peace out the next time, guys.